Why don't we talk about some of the controversy around CBD? First of all, what's the legal status? Is it treated the same as marijuana with THC?
It is not simple, and people are very confused. They see CBD in their corner stores, and they think it's fine, and it must be safe, it must be approved.
Somehow my grandmother has it in her leg ointment.
Well, hopefully she's getting it through a doctor and with a medical card in her state, so that it is something that is carefully prepared and a little more scientifically safe. But the legal status right now is that CBD derived from hemp is no longer a controlled substance under the Controlled Substances Act. That means you don't have criminal violations just for making hemp or CBD derived from hemp, putting aside food and beverage, which is regulated by the FDA. What happened was the Farm Bill said, states, you are free to submit a plan to the US Department of Agriculture for how you want to produce and sell hemp and CBD in your state. We will then approve those plans or not. So you can submit a plan. If you don't submit a plan, individual companies in your state can submit to the USDA for approval, or a state can decide to opt out and not allow.
No plan needed?
No hemp, well, and say no hemp or CBD allowed in their state. In order to be federally legal, you need to either have a state-approved plan or a company-approved plan. And as of now, the USDA has not yet even said how the plans are to be submitted. So we don't have rules for how to submit potential rules. And the USDA has said they plan to roll that out to 19.
Is this just kind of the Wild West where companies see a vacuum and they're going to operate and wait for the warning letter and wait to be punished rather than ask permission?
There is a lot of that happening, especially since people feel, well, it's not criminal anymore. You could still face civil violations for not following the rules that don't exist yet. And people need to be careful of that. And you have to be very careful, as we've talked about what, if any, claims you're making in your product. The FDA has declared, following the Farm Bill passage, that any hemp or CBD in food or beverage needs their approval. And they have not yet figured out exactly how they want to approve food and beverage products. And so if there's one thing that's still potentially criminal within hemp and CBD, it's violating FDA law in regard to going ahead with food and beverage products. The FDA recently sent a warning letter to one of the biggest public companies saying, you're making claims with your products that this could treat Alzheimer's and cancer and some other things, and they are very much focusing on trying to stop companies from making medical claims and other things that are not yet scientifically substantiated. And so the belief is that, CBD is legal now, and it's not quite yet. It will be once these rules are written, and it still won't be allowed in food or beverage until the FDA says how they want to deal with it. And they're being much more cautious than the USDA at this point.
Let's talk about food and beverage. I've had two companies pitched to me as the CBD seltzer. They're the CBD of Gatorade. How are these companies going around raising capital if it's in this kind of gray area?
Well, you can still operate within a state legal program, the same way as we did before when it was all still a federal crime. And you can make the choice as an investor that you're not going to face federal enforcement and so on. But with food and beverage, you still have criminal risk under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act for making false claims or producing something that's not FDA approved. And so these companies do have to be careful, but most of them are trying to operate under state programs that permit.
So they're launching in states where marijuana is perhaps decriminalized or legalized?
And where specifically hemp and CBD has its own program that they've already approved, even though the federal government hasn't approved it yet.
Are there examples of states that have a state program for CBD?
Well, many states have approved hemp programs. Texas just approved one, Florida, New York, many others, where they're approving plans that they intend to submit to the federal government, but they're not waiting. They're approving research grants in New York, for example, and other places where they believe this could really be very attractive and profitable